Hey, what's guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we're talking about Hikoki, Metabo HPT, Hitachi Holdings, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about that brand. Specifically, we're going to be talking about their multi-volt framing nailer, and specifically on that, the 21-degree plastic collated framing nailer. So they do make this framing nailer, or 21-degree plastic collated framing nailer, in an 18-volt model, but this one right here is the multi-volt model. So we're going to go over this tool top to bottom, you know, maybe put this in some tests or whatnot, see how it stacks up. Stick with us. Alright you guys, so this right here is the multi-volt model of the 21-degree framing nailer, and the model number is NR3690DR. That's the model of the framing nailer. You can get it as a kit with a 2.5 amp hour multi-volt battery and a charger and this, and it comes with like glasses and a bag and stuff like that for NR3690DRM. M being the difference kind of with the kit, but you know, this one right here, like I said, is the 3690. So as I mentioned earlier, this one is the 21-degree framing nailer, and just go over just some basic framing nailer stuff here. The 21-degree framing nailers, just general on the market, use mostly clip full-size heads. That's not true in all cases, but in most cases, they use the full-size round heads. The 30-degree framing nailers, or clip, or nail straps, or whatever you want to call them, will be clipped heads. So 30-degree, you usually get paper collated and clipped heads. The 21-degree, you get plastic collated and full-size heads mostly. That's pretty much the main difference. A lot of people like the 21-degree plastic collated ones because you get the full head. They, you know, there's more holding power. But you know, the downside is you get less nails per clip and the plastic on there, and then you know, as you fire the nails, they're like little bits of pieces of plastic that hold the nails, can just go everywhere, right? So there's that. So you know, to each their own, but like I said, those are the two dominant kinds that are on the market in terms of like the degrees and nails and stuff like that. Anyways, in all of those degrees and nail clips and stuff like that, you can get them hot dip galvanized, ACQ, bright, you know, interior, all that kind of stuff. But just basic, no, just take that away. So like I mentioned earlier, they have an 18-volt model and a multi-volt model. They look almost exactly identical. The main difference you're going to see is on the multi-volt model, there will be a multi-volt sticker. And obviously the multi-volt model can only take multi-volt batteries. The 18-volt model can use 18-volt batteries and multi-volt batteries, but you know, that's really the primary difference besides performance. But we're going to get into that. So before we get too far into it, let's go look at the marketing hype, and then we'll bring it in closer and take a better look at it. This right here is Metabo HPT 36-volt multi-volt 3.5-inch plastic strip cordless framing nailer. It delivers driving speed up to 3 nails per second, saving valuable time and, you know, productivity. Forget the hassle of cords, all that kind of fun stuff. The multi-volt battery allows you to work with a cordless nailer all day long, and it will drive nails offset from 2 inches to 3.5 inches up and 1.113 inches up to 0.131 inches in diameter. And if you get it as a kit and use a 2.5 amp hour multi-volt battery, you will get roughly about 900 nails per a charge. Okay, like I said, 2.5 will give you roughly about 900 nails. If you use a 5 amp hour battery or a 4 amp hour multi-volt battery, you'll get somewhere closer to 1600. We can talk more about that later. The main benefit to this one is it has a pneumatic feel, and it uses 21 degrees. The applications obviously for construction, it runs on a brushless motor. It has a cordless or toolless depth adjustment, has 0 ramp up time, has a selective actuator action. What that means is you can either use bump fire or single fire. Has a dry fire lockout, a side lockout switch, a pivoting hook, and is covered by their limited lifetime lithium ion tool warranty. Okay, if you buy it as a kit, the battery itself is covered by a 2-year warranty. All right, so the nailer has no frills, no throws. We're just gonna go over a lot of stuff real quick. All right, folks. So obviously this is the left-hand part of the nailer. If you're holding this one is fairly new. We've mainly had the 18-volt model and stuff like that, but the 36-volt model is fairly new to us, and we have been using it for just a little bit. There was about 3 weeks where, you know, I was at a commission not using a nailer due to a broken finger and all that kind of fun stuff. But this one, like I said, is fairly new. Other than that, all this black stuff here on the handle and the grip and stuff like that is going to be rubber overmold. This black stuff, all this black stuff here is plastic. This here is not rubber overmold, and there's no rubber overmolding on here, okay? It's a pretty much a Hitachi nailer if you've used any of that kind of stuff, right? So this right here is the magazine, the spring load that, you know, holds the nails forward. It does hold one strip of nails regardless of whichever brand of nails you're buying. And like I mentioned earlier, it uses almost any branded collated nails work in here. The one thing I noticed with this one here is that because it is a 2-lever design, meaning you can either pull this back all the way, but you have to press this in order to lift the little lever that touches the nails, right? So if you're going really fast, and you'll probably see this as I do some of the tests, every once in a while you'll probably mess up because you pull it back and you're holding this lever here, right? And then you can kind of get to the part where you see that the nail is not actually being driven forward because you're holding it here. So if you are going really fast and you have that problem, you know, just pull this part back, right? But if you're putting a nail in there, obviously you can't do that. You kind of have to do this, right? So it is kind of just something to worry about, you know. There's other models that, you know, you just pull it back all the way and it'll just lock there. You put it in and you just hit it and it'll slide back out. This one is not like that, okay? This magazine right here, they say it holds about up to 37 nails. There's a metal rail down here that is metal, but most of this part is plastic. There's other nailers that we've had that's plastic. You know, every once in a while you'll see that the part that goes in right here where the nail loads will get a little deteriorated and, you know, sometimes get caught up. But we haven't had that problem with the other Hitachi nailer, and this one obviously is new, so it's not that problem. But the parts that are important, right, or as most people will call important, the metal part on the inside gives it stability, so it is pretty stable. Don't really have any issues with that. I mean, I can't really imagine that having problems in the long run, okay? So that's what's going on with this side right here. Other stuff, or other important stuff going on here is that here is a lockout switch, right? So this is, I don't want to say standard, but this is not standard or not very common with other models, right? As you saw, we've reviewed the DeWalt nailer and even the Milwaukee nailer a long time ago, but we'll come back to that. None of those nailers have like this lockout switch. So this one is a safety feature that is unique to Metabo HPT. I do appreciate that it's here. Every once in a while I get caught that, you know, I left it unlocked or whatnot, but it is nice that it's there so you don't accidentally, you know, fire that stuff there. So the rubber overmold, I will say, on the Hitachi nailers definitely feels better. This is just like subjective grading or whatever, than other nailers I've seen, you know, the Milwaukee or the DeWalt, or even some of the pneumatic, actual pneumatic nailers. This one actually has the best rubber overmolded feeling to it, I guess. This right here obviously is the trigger. It is locked out. Obviously there's no battery on here. This right here is the rafter hook. I do have one issue with the rafter hook in that it is so tiny. So if you go take a look at it from this angle, you can see, and you can even see as it sits right here with this rail, to get it right hooked into like a 2x4, it gets really stiff, right? There's no space there to get it like hooked in really well, especially with this magazine clip in the way. So I do wish that they ran the 18-volt model rafter hook on here, because especially if you're working using framing nailer, you may actually be up on a ladder or scaffolding or whatever, and it's nice to have the bigger rafter hook. Every once in a while you'll see some people saying, oh, the bigger rafter hook is too big, but on framing nailers I think you really need the big one, because, you know, this stuff here is just too short and it can never really get it into place on, you know, 2x4, 2x material, let's say, right? Even if it's 2x6 or 8, doesn't matter, because this is the width right here. Sometimes you just hold it right on that, you know, ladder metal part or the railing or scaffolding, but other than that, you know, that's the one thing that really got to complain about, okay? On the back side here, there's not too much to talk about. Obviously, battery goes here, nail goes in here. I will talk about this part here real quick, so I'm not sure how it's come out, but there's two little rubberized gel inserts, I guess, rubber inserts that kind of feel like part of this rubber overgrip molding. And that actually, after using it for a while, I do see when you're firing it that it actually absorbs some of the weight from the battery. So as you can imagine, the battery is on here, right? And as it fires, it's got the recoil action and the battery is here. So without a little, it adds a little bit of dampening. I'm sure it'll probably be fine even if they didn't add the dampening on there. But that part of this rubber battery compartment being held against this rubberized thing, absorbing some of the vibration, definitely tells you, you know, they've gotten a lot of research and, you know, attention to detail and that kind of stuff. So it is nice that they added that. I have not seen that on any other cordless nailer before, okay? On the back side here, this stuff is pretty standard. You know, it's got like this mechanism here, and usually the air cylinder drive thing here. On this side, there's really no lockout switches or anything like that, okay? On the top side here is just a flat top. You can, allegedly, you could service it. I know you can take this off and you can kind of refill some of the air cylinder itself if you wanted to, but you know, you just take it to a service center for that. There's not, you can use or service it, but you know, it's not really designed for that kind of stuff. On here is where you get the depth guide adjustment mechanism. So if you look right here, I'm not sure if it's going to show on the screen right now, but there is a little icon drawing it on here. You know, say if you spin this dial this way, it will, you know, sink it less. If you spin it this way or to my right, or I guess your left, it will sink it more. Out of the factory, it kind of comes on the second bar here in terms of being sunk, and I found that, you know, out of the factory settings, it worked just fine. There's no issues with that. The other part going on here is that here is the teeth or whatnot, if you want to talk about it, where it really grabs on to whatever it is that you're framing into or nailing into. One thing I found out, like I mentioned with the other Hitachi nailer, is that these teeth, some may think that it's aggressive, but I really do think that it could be a little bit more aggressive. I do think personally that the DeWalt teeth they put on their nailers is a little bit better, because as you can, I'll demonstrate here, you know, if you're really going at it, say at this angle and pressing on it, it has this tendency to slide forward, right? Even though it does press in. DeWalt nailers have a little bit more aggressive teeth that, you know, prevent that from happening, but it's just a small thing to nitpick at. It's not too much of a big deal, okay? I haven't had any issue with the jamming. The other thing I will talk about on here is that it does have a dry fire lockout, and then when it does dry fire lock out, there's actually 5 nails that are left in here, okay? That's one thing to note, because, you know, once it does dry fire lockout, you just slap another stick of nails in there and you just, you know, coil it back and it's ready to go. But there will always be 5 nails in there at all times. All right, so the other thing to note here is that this has a what they call a safety mechanism, which gets a little bit annoying to me. And what that means is that once you press, once it's engaged or the safety is undone, whatever you want to call it, you have about 2 seconds to fire the nail, or it will just safety time out and nothing will happen. And then you have to reset it by taking it off, putting it back down, and then firing. So there's about 2-second gap in there that you have to take care of. So if you're one of those people that, you know, you put it there and you kind of have to, you know, slap the piece of wood around or whatever, it's just not going to fire. So when you put it down like this, you've got to be ready to go. Let me see if I can show you that here real quick. We'll slap this, sorry, doing it backwards, multi-volt battery in there. We'll turn it on here. I'll show you the gauge in a second. But right now it is on single fire, and it is unlocked. So if I go back here, right? Let's go here. See, actually there's nails in there. So we'll go here. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Okay. So that's what's really happening there. If you just go really fast and fire, it'll work. I'm obviously not just going to do that for no reason, but that's what's going on there. All right, so let me show you this little panel right here. I'm not sure how well it's going to come out, but there's a power button. It's a green LED power button. You long press and it will hold on, and it will turn on. And when it turns on, for me, I've always seen that it turns on to single fire mode. You can do a medium press on this blue button here, where the blue light will start blinking. That means it's in rapid fire mode or bump fire mode, and you can just switch from there. So the other thing I noticed is that if the battery comes out and you plug it back in or it comes on, it will technically start up in single fire mode. I don't know if that's by design or whatnot, but I just noticed that. So there is to it. All right, guys, so let's go talk about the test that we did. The test was not that great. Like I mentioned earlier, there's been like about 3 weeks where I was just not using a nail gun at all, just for being out of commission. But let's go ahead and just talk about the basics of it, right? Because that's actually going to still portray, right? So we ran this nailer with a 4 amp hour multivolt battery, and this is a multivolt tool, so it is a 4 amp hour battery in this tool, and we shot 45 nails. First test we did is the single fire one at a time. We shot 45 nails. Actually, if you go look at it, we actually shot 44 nails. So what I did was take the time and then added the average of how long it takes to fire one nail from the last like 5 nails, and that was right about a second. So with the 45 nails that we shot, 45 of them sunk, right? Allegedly. If you look at it closely, there is one that didn't sink all the way, but I know from an operator error, I just didn't hold it down enough, and it was just trying to go too fast. The recoil just didn't let it sink, but I know for a fact, just using it enough, if you just press it down and hold it, it's gonna sink. That one I can tell you is an operator error. So all 45 of those allegedly sunk, and then the time for that took right around 58.3 seconds, okay? During that time, we did have to reload once, so there, you know, is a little bit of time delay for reloading, okay? On the bump fire test, we flipped it around and shot 45 nails in that time. All 45 we did fire. We did have to reload once, and there were no proud nails. All of them sunk completely. Actually, some of them sunk so much I think the wood even started cracking, right? So the time for that was around 37 seconds. I would actually take some off of that. If you go back and look, there was one part in there where we were struggling those time, because like I mentioned earlier, this part here with, you know, holding the nail in there, there was like one time where I was holding it too far and let it go, and the nail wasn't being pressed forward, or the nail clip wasn't being pressed forward. So, you know, you give or take 5 seconds or so on that, right? So anyways, like I said, the nailer holds about 37 nails as capacity. It fires up to 3.5-inch nail, and that tool and battery combination comes in weighing in a whopping 11.57 pounds. Bam, so that's actually, you know, really heavy. So if you go back and take a look at the total numbers, let's go look at the other numbers that are on the screen, right? So we tested in 18 volt 1890 DRS, right, which is an 18 volt tool, and that one on single fire mode took about 61.18 seconds, right, and the DeWalt DCN21PL for, you know, sinking 45 nails took, you know, roughly around 107 seconds, right? And it left a lot of them proud. So 58 seconds versus the next closest one, which is 61 seconds. Yes, obviously it is faster. Bump fire mode, we took 37 seconds with this model, and then with the 1890 DRS, that one took about 40.27 seconds, right? So there, you know, like I said, there's about 3 seconds of difference. But if you take away the 5 seconds that, you know, we struggled with reloading the nail and that kind of stuff, you know, it's actually a lot this one is actually a lot faster. And if you go look at the number before that or after that, the DCN21PL on bump fire, that one took about 65 seconds or 64.47 seconds, and it left like 9 of them proud, right? So if you go and look at best case scenario or whatnot, you could argue with bump fire enabled, this nailer is at least close to 2 times faster than the DeWalt DCN21PL. You know, give or take, you know, if you're not doing production framing, bam, 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 just going along, that stuff really doesn't matter. But if you are doing production framing, I'm going to go ahead and assume you're probably using pneumatic, and, you know, that's not all that important. So, anyways, let's go ahead and, you know, what can we say about this tool and close this out, right? So obviously this is a great tool. We bought this tool fairly recently, mainly because, you know, they had all those promos and free batteries and stuff like that going on. This tool alone, I believe, tool only retail for somewhere around $350 to $400, right? Tool only, you can buy it as a kit for somewhere around $400, $450, right? So that's actually pretty, you know, expensive for a nailer, because you can buy pneumatic nailers for, right, you know, decent pneumatic nailers for around, you know, 150, 100, some 200 if you want to get into some of the better ones. But, you know, you're paying almost 2 times the cost for a battery powered nailer in a kit. versus a pneumatic nailer where you also probably have to go buy a compressor if you don't have one and you're stuck to a hose and all that kind of fun stuff. So there is, you know, benefits to having cordless and stuff like that. There is also another benefit to having the multi-volt version because it will cycle faster, and even according to specs and advertising, it is faster, right? So the multi-volt models they advertise will go around 3 nails per second. The 18-volt models they advertise around 2 nails per second. So even on the small amount of testing that we did, 245 sets of nails, you know, that actually it does appear there if you're just trying to go as fast and don't care too much about accuracy, right? If you care more about accuracy and care about the quality of your work, you'll probably work a little bit slower and be more accurate. So there is that. The other big downside to the cordless nailers, battery powered nailers at least, is that they are heavy, right? So like I said, this 4 amp hour battery setup with this will rate around 11.57 pounds. The lightest one that we've tested was a DeWalt DCN21PO, and that was around 8.59 pounds, right? So there's a huge difference, but you know, sometimes you got to give or take a certain things, right? So if you did run this tool with a 2.5 amp hour battery, the one that comes in the kit, it'll be around 11.13 pounds, which is still heavy, but you know, like I said, you got to pay for some of that convenience, right? So all in all, it's a great tool. You have to figure out, you know, is the price really worth it for you? Do you like that cordless convenience? For me, I'm gonna say personally, if I'm gonna go out and buy, or would I go buy this tool again? Yes, I would buy it again if I didn't have one, right? If I had one, that really have no need to buy another one, but I would go buy it again if for whatever reason something happened to this tool, right? Mainly because I'm not a production framer. I don't just spend all day framing, and you know, I have small things, a little bit remodeling things here to do here and there, but mostly doing a lot of commercial work does not include a lot of, you know, wooden studs all the time. So through those jobs it gets done fine. Speaking of that, let's talk about battery life. So I almost always use this with a 4 amp hour battery, and that's mainly because of battery life. Sometimes, or it's also a psychological thing, you know, just put the bigger battery on it, but you'll probably be fine with the 2.5 amp hour battery. But with a 4 amp hour battery, you can go all day. I can get through at least about 2 boxes of nails, I think, if I can remember correctly, and you know, it's fine. I haven't had too many issues, and that's probably depending on what kind of boxes of nails you buy too, right? So I don't know how many nails that is, but over a course of a day of a general, let's say, framing person, 4 amp hour battery will run you fine. You probably have to charge it at the end of the day, but you know, you'll be good. So other than that, like I said, would I buy it again? Yes. You have to figure out if it's worth it for you. I told you at least the numbers. You can kind of give an idea what to compare, whatnot. There is a little bit room for improvements. Like I said, the big thing is this, and obviously whatever they can do to decrease the weight of the tool while, you know, keeping the same performance, it's going to be fine. I don't think too many people are going to be complaining, you guys need to make this tool faster. You know, 3 nails per second, that's pretty fast. You know, I can't imagine people framing that fast. You know, obviously if you're, you know, roofing nails should probably go fast. But you know, this kind of stuff. So anyways, we tested it with, I believe was a 3¼ inch nail, and that works fine. We haven't tested with 3½ inch. We just don't use 3½ inches, right? So all the nails we use were 3-inch nails, plastic collated. If you really care about the brand, I can't remember what it was. It may even be a DeWalt brand right here. So anyways, hopefully this video helped you guys out. Sorry for all the rambling. Do some great work. Have a great day, and then we'll see you guys next time.